Hello, all you gridiron fanatics out there. Glad you could join us here for another off-season edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style. I am, of course, Mr. CeeLo here, talking all things pro football, from the scoops of the regular season to the scores in the postseason and the picks in the off-season. Let's start gabbing.
The autumn winds move like the thunderous waves of Neptune's sacred palace. And here, amongst the blackened soil, lies the ragged hands, worn, torn, and callous. They await with cunning and vicious prowess, for the warriors have returned.
Come on, Dutch! Don't do it! Woo! No way! Woo! 85! Crying out loud! You're making me, you're driving me nuts!
But behold,
Welcome back, you guys. Thank you all for joining us again on another off-season edition of Gridiron Gab Pro Style. Of course, today we are doing the 4-13 Arizona Cardinals, whom also have the 4th pick in the draft. Before we get started, you guys, I want to give a big shout out to Shandog555. Thank you so much for commenting on the Commanders show, and I will give you a response to that in the second part of the Chicago Bears offseason 2.0. As I'm trying to catch up, you guys, as you guys can tell, I'm still really stopped up. The allergies here in the South are finally starting to catch up with me, ironically enough. But guys, as much as you guys comment, I will definitely give you a shout out. Once again, Shandog, thank you so much. Shandog555, thank you so much for the shout out. But most of you guys, if you guys are subscribers, go to Gridiron Gab Pro Style and subscribe to the group, and as well as subscribe to the Facebook page, so that I can continuously give you guys shout outs. I know you guys are enjoying the content. Thank you so much for bearing with me as a young, wet behind the ears content creator. Just bear with me. You guys love football, and I love bringing you the news that goes with it. But let's get over that. Let's start talking about the 4-13 Arizona Cardinals. This team wasn't really difficult for me to research, you guys, because it was basically really simple. The Cardinals really did not have much. And basically going into this draft, the Arizona Cardinals are basically stuck with a decision to make. Now, honestly, this is a good decision to have, because a lot of people are going to say, well, they better do something, because at the end of the day, they've got 2 first-round picks and just over $50 million in cap space. Now, that's easier said than done, people. Let's think about it from the standpoint of, we saw, and me personally, I thought when I saw Bill Belichick spend the amount of capital that they spent in that 2020, I think it was 2020-21 offseason, we just knew the Patriots were just going to decimate everybody. And it turned out it put them in a bind. It really did. And it was kind of the death bell for one of the greatest runs that we had ever seen by a coach. And it was a tough thing to watch, because, you know, you really didn't want to see that. But, you know, as everything else, all good things come to an end. But looking at what the Arizona Cardinals have as far as draft capital, you know, as we said, we know they hold the 4th pick as well as Houston's 26th pick, so it kind of turned out, and we'll talk about Houston later, and they hold Houston's 3rd round pick. So they also have 3 third-round picks, so it's conceivable if Arizona plays their cards right. Now, a lot of people are going to say, don't do what I'm going to say, but they could conceivably end up with 6 guys in the top 100 out of the top 110 players in this draft. Now, that could be a good thing, or if you're like me, you're just plain Jane greedy. I think ultimately you could get your starting tackle, but unfortunately you got your left tackle in Paris Johnson last year. And honestly, what you could do this season is go ahead and get your right tackle and possibly get a guard with those 3 third round picks. But what I would venture to say, and this is just me, because there are people that are thinking that a guy like Brock Bowers is going to fall. And with your 4th pick here, you could very well rebuild your entire offense. You could go, and there's a lot of people that are saying, take wide receiver. You need a defensive tackle. And honestly, you don't see a lot of defensive tackles. I will say this. Do I think that the Arizona Cardinals have a guy in this draft that could very well be that next guy? I think Newton out of Illinois is a good one. Byron Murphy's a guy that I really, really like. I like Byron Murphy out of Texas, but do you really take him high? That's the question. At the height that they're picking at. Do I think you could take him at the 27th pick? Sure. But then there's that question of the free agency question. That's really the question that, that really jars the mind. Do you take him where you're going to take him? And say, hey, this is what we need to take. And the thing is, Brock Bowers is a guy that is number 5. He can help this offense immediately because of his skill set and his size. Then you start to look at what you have as far as, do you want to go offensive tackle and completely wipe the board here? And I don't think you do. I don't think you go. I think, honestly, you trade down, and I know a lot of people are going to not like this choice, but you trade down, and this is why I say this, because the free agency market as far as defensive tackles, now if Jonathan Gannon can get, let's say, if they can pull DJ Reader, because he's 30 years old, and honestly, he's one of the top prospects in this year. Now, I get it, he's 30. But the 2 guys you definitely want to try to work with, I don't see Christian Wilkins getting away from Miami. There's no way that the Miami Dolphins can just let this guy walk. Chris Jones is a guy that's extremely interesting. But I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to make the mistake of letting him walk. So it would not be surprising, looking at the landscape of this, most of your great defensive tackles are over the age of 30. And honestly, Arizona's not in not a complete full rebuild, but they're not in a short one. But you could go after Justin Jones. I don't think the Raiders are going to part with Bilal Nichols. They're probably not going to let him go. Maurice Hurst, same thing in Cleveland. I don't think they allow him to walk. Now, Javon Kinlaw at San Francisco may not get the money. So this could be, and he's 26, so this could be an area that they look at if they don't want to go the draft away. I personally think that the wide receiver in free agency is going to be a tough waiver because you're not getting T. Higgins. Now, however, you could take Tyler Boyd, Cincinnati's alternate free agent, whom nobody's really talking about. But now, here's the thing. Tyler Boyd hasn't been a true number 1 in a long time. Ever since Jamar Chase got there. He's a guy that he is an elite wide receiver in himself. But when you put him along next to him, either in the slot or next to a top-notch elite receiver, is a huge deal. But the problem is they don't have that right now. They've got really 2 scat backs and Marquise Brown, who's a free agent. Now, I kind of got off the handle there when I went to talking about using the free agency. Now, I do think, however, that searching free agency, there's still a few guys out there, the wide receiver, that being Calvin Ridley. He could be a guy you bring in. But ultimately, the edge is a huge deal. If you could snatch Danielle Hunter from the Vikings, if they can't sign him, if they choose to go the Kirk Cousins way and let Danielle Hunter walk, this guy had 16.5 last year. He would be an immense boost to this pass rush. And honestly, you Arizona fans, that would be a great way to go. Then of course, there's Randy Gregory for the 49ers, who's a free agent. Marcus Davenport was kind of a disappointment in Minnesota. Zadarius Smith is 32. Yannick Ngakoue, who kind of had an off year. Then there's Carl Lawson. And of course, there's the journeyman, hometown boy, Leonard Floyd. Had a great season for the Buffalo Bills. He's continuously been consistent. He would be a great start if you decided to put him next to B.J. Ujulari, who started to play well. And I mean, I'm hearing really good ravings out of Arizona that they love the way he came along late in the season. You could pair him up with Leonard Floyd. And, move him even next to Yannick Ngakoue. Being that Floyd is at the age in his career where he's 32 years old, you could very well take him and move him around. I mean, there's Bryce Huff. He's not guaranteed to be signed by the Jets, and he's 26, coming off a pretty decent season with the Jets. He's young. There's a lot of opportunities with the cap that the Cardinals have. They could very well take DJ Reader from the Cincinnati Bengals at the interior position. Leonard Williams hasn't been snatched up. Then there's 34-year-old Fletcher Cox. Then there's Fadakas, Sheldon Rankins. These are guys that they could jump on. These are guys that they could truly go and make some serious run after with that money and change that pass rush just like that. And then you've got B.J. Ujulari. But then there's the other fix. There's also the draft. Now, so many people are on that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the pick here. I love Marvin Harrison, but he did not run a 40. But there were a couple of guys who impressed running their 40s. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I love edge rushers. I think, honestly, if Arizona plays their cards right, they could trade back several times in this draft. And I'm not taking picks next year if I'm Arizona. I'm taking picks this year only. This year only. Because that pick that the Texans did last year did not work out well for them. I'm taking picks this year. And if I got to take picks next year, I'm getting a second with it. I'm only taking seconds. I'm taking your first this year and I'm taking 2 seconds. I'm not taking no first next year. I'm taking 2 seconds. Because the depth of this draft this season, you as the Arizona Cardinals could very well fix your interior and exterior defensive line and get the receiver of your choice this year. Because here's the thing. Look, we already know what draft capital the Cardinals have. You could have walking around several picks in the top 100. Guys, this ain't no joke. You talking about a first, 2 firsts, a second, and 3 thirds. Yeah, so you talking about this is a team that could very well, in my opinion, you could make some serious push with these 3rd round picks. Now, don't get me wrong. I would want to use these to move up. Like if I'm sitting here with that first pick, that 4th pick, I'm going to trade down. But I want to move up a little bit. I'm going to take that 2nd or that 3rd and I'm going to move that up. And then I'm going to take those 2 thirds later on and I'm going to manipulate them and make them work for me. And this is what I mean, guys. Looking at this, if I don't want to, see, the Cardinals have every right to save that money if they want to. This is what I would do if I was the Cardinals. I would trade as far back as I can until I got to about number 16 or number 17 because Jared Verse out of Florida State is 6'4", 260. Or what I could do Leatu Latu is 6'5", 265. I could put him on the edge and continue to keep trading back. And then I could go ahead and get J.C. Latham at tackle, 6'6", 335. And there's plenty of tackles in this draft, you guys. There's plenty. And the thing is, you got a guy like Brian Thomas out of LSU, 6'4", 205 pounds. Ran pretty good at the combine. Then there's Ladd McConkey. And the reality of it is, you need a guy that can play to the skill set of Kyler Murray. You got big Adonai Mitchell, 6'4", 196. And the list just keeps going on, you guys. And it's, you know, when you watch, and then there's Chris Bracewell out of Alabama, 6'3", 255. You got so many guys that you could take if you just move up the ladder. Because, you, like I said, you got the 2 first. As much as you love Marvin Harrison, you're not a Marvin Harrison away from being great. You're not a Marvin Harrison away from being great. You have to look along the lines that you need multiple picks. You need to go and get guys like Braden Fisk out of Florida State, 6'5", 297. You need to get Chop Robinson, 6'3", 250. These are guys that you need to get. Darius Robinson, the one-man wrecking crew for the Missouri Tigers, 6'5", 296. Look at that size. There is no way I'm not getting somebody to go at Ujulari. I could get a Chris Bracewell and possibly get an Adonai Mitchell at wide receiver, and then turn around and get a 6'5" Braden Fisk. Ain't no way, you guys. This is all the makings for the Arizona Cardinals to have a jump this season, to become a possible playoff contender. And they can do it in the draft. And you're talking about going deep into this. You even got a guy like Jermaine Burton who could make noise. And then, of course, Keon Coleman, a guy who didn't run a great 40 time, but he had a top-end speed of 20 miles an hour. And what does that do for a guy like Kyler Murray when he's on the run? Just stick your foot in the ground and heave it to the 6'4", 215-pound big guy. And then you got guys like another guy that I like, Jalen Pope, a guy who was the great beta or Batman to Rome Odunze. Yeah. And there's just so many places that this team could go. So many places. And even Xavier Leggett. You know, he's a big target. 6'3", 227. And just so many different places that Arizona could go if they have the ability. And then this is another one that would really be nuts if he's there. 6'1", 172-pound Xavier Worthy. I know you guys know this name. The guy who just shattered the combine record in the 40. They got him as a late second-round grade, you guys. Very well, the Cardinals could trade up, get him, since they got 3 picks in the top 40. And see, this is where the Cardinals have to get smart. As much as you may want Marvin Harrison Jr., trade down, build up the capital. There are great players in this draft that you need and can put you over the top. Maybe not this year, but possibly next year and the year after. You can get production out of these guys this year, but you need more of them. More of them. Keep building up that cap space, because here's the thing. If you're wanting to be that organization, you don't want to spend heavy, here's the draft you can do it in. But you got to let Marvin Harrison Jr. go. You got to let yourself realize you're not that guy away. You're not a Marvin Harrison away from being elite. Got to trade these picks and look at some of these other guys that are in here. Braylon Trice, 6'4", 274-pound defensive end out of Washington. These guys are great. You have to decide what you're going to do. I'm telling you right now, I love this draft. I think this draft is loaded. And for anybody like Arizona that's got 2 first-round picks, 1 late, although this fourth pick from the from you guys can make bank on this, especially if it's a team that's coming up from, let's say, the bottom. If you get a team that's coming to anything less from 17, you got a chance to build it. I'm telling them, look, I want your second this year, and I want your third, and then I want your first next year. And possibly your second next year, or possibly your second next year. I want a king's ransom for it. Arizona's got a chance to build this team through this draft. And then I'm not going any lower. If a team is lower than number 20, they got to pay for it. If you're going to come up and get Marvin Harrison, you're going to have to pay for it. That's what I'm telling you. But Arizona Cardinal fans, I feel for you. I hope your organization does make the right move, because Marvin Harrison is not going to fix your problems. You got a chance to build up a lot of equity in this draft. And building up picks is what you need to do. Not Marvin Harrison. Building up capital. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me. Check me out at my Facebook page of the same name, Gridiron Gab Pro Style. Also, go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo and see what other things I'm into. Also, make sure you comment and subscribe, you guys. A lot of you guys are subscribed. A lot of you guys are liking the show and you're not subscribed. Come on now, how you going to get the notifications that I'm doing another show? I'm going through all 32 teams. Oh, and another thing, guys. If I'm not getting to your team fast enough, I'm going in the draft order, you guys, just in case you don't know. Guys, if you want your team done faster than where it is where they are positioned in the draft, let me know, so I can go ahead and get it done. But anyway, till the next time, you guys, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.
But behold, there is a warm breeze that comes from the west. The blazing sounds of victory fuel their everlasting quest. It is a call to arms, for they are here. An army that has the will to challenge and the will to dare.